All right, guys, we're gonna go to the next stage of this redirecting our opponent's hips to the side, but now we're gonna use our hips. This one sometimes gets called a leg weave. It can be a leg fold. It can be a hip smash, but it's the more realistic one. Instead of trying to bring my shin up to access this leg as a lever to redirect it and pin it to the other side, my hips are already right beside my opponent's legs, and I don't need the same kind of space being able to lift and create mobility in my hips to redirect. So here, as Kevin has his knee drift across here, my hips will already be against this. I shouldn't be so high up here that there's a disconnect between my opponent's knee and the side of their thigh to my body. I want to be occupying that space, floating over top. That's where if I can put the knee on the mat, great. If you can't, at least still be forward, driving your hips down into your opponent's hips. From here, I'm going to redirect my hips to the side, and we're first going to go over the way that Gordon does it. Gordon doesn't ever step his knee in here, at least not that I've seen in any of the competition footage that I've been scrubbing through. He typically just drops his hips to the side, sprawling out, pinning the knee down to the mat, so that he's going to be able to continue working his way around to this side. If my opponent's hips are facing this direction, I'm always better off to go behind them rather than in front of them. So here, as Kevin's knee drifts from here just to there, as soon as it starts moving across, it starts to angle, and now I'm able to switch. Usually my right hip will be the hip that's the leading edge because I'm trying to put my knee on the mat. I'm going to switch my left hip to the leading edge as I bring my knee out and sprawl back. And so right now I'm putting heavy pressure with my left thigh and my left hip against Kevin's legs, so that if Kevin tries to create any mobility in his hips, he has very limited base. This arm is going to be best served as an underhook of some kind. We see that Kevin's arm has been collapsed here. That is absolutely fine. I'm just keeping this hand gripping at one of his shoulders. I prefer the bottom shoulder because I'm lanky and I need to use that extra distance to close my elbow. If you're shorter, nothing wrong up here. Or even hand on the mat and just using that to push and close the elbow as much as possible. If his arm's on the other side here, then we're just going to be going with our traditional underhook. Any of the same positions are still fine. From here, I can keep my hips kind of mobile if I want to. What Gordon usually is still looking for is his shin circling to trap, or he's looking to still create that back step. Switch towards. So remember how in that last pass we needed to be able to lift our hips high so we could perform this knee cut over the top leg? Now I don't need to, my hips are already here. I'm just going to look to create a sprawl, spreading my legs out here so that I'm in base, live toes with both legs, able to drive forward my left hip here. Look how it's pinning his legs. From here, I can shin circle my legs over, so we can either always bring that same leg over. If Kevin's reaching the leg a little bit further out towards my right leg, out here, and I can't get that, we can shin circle the other leg. Don't try and just bring the leg up. It's like a windshield wiper, so I need my hips to be moving with this. So if my left hip is driving forward and it makes it awkward for me to bring my foot over, I'll switch more pressure to my right hip to create that shin circle. Then if I need to go the other way, left hip to create mobility in my right leg to move through. From here, I can also lift my hips slightly, and as Kevin tries to follow me a bit, then I can drop that left hip and perform that back step. The other way, one of the ways that I really like doing it, and a lot of people do, is they actually move into the complete hip smash or that leg weave position. So instead of just using my hips to smash Kevin's leg to the side, a little bit more this way, is I'm going to bring my knee inside and step. So I'm landing in this position where I have my knee up against his hip, my hip's above my knee, and my foot is actively hooking and stapling his leg to the mat here. I am not going to compromise my base and bring my knee in like this first. Because one, Kevin might be able to hold on to my legs. I've made my base very narrow, and so I'm nowhere near as stable. While I'm probably not going to get swept here still because it's hard for him to control both my legs while shutting down both my arms. It'll be more difficult in the gi for me. I'm causing myself unnecessary problems. As soon as my knee is coming in to replace my leg, I'm just switching my base out really wide. Here, as this is coming in, I can either bring my leg out and step, or I'm going to be able to just cut my knee and shin across his shin and kind of circle it out. My leg needs to be stapled here. It's not as big of a threat in the gi, but especially in Nogi, if my leg just sits out here, Kevin's going to be able to start moving into a leg entanglement by just crossing his legs, creating figure 4, and now I'm in a smash 411 position. I can still survive from here, but if Kevin knows how to control my base and be able to perform a hip shovel movement, he's going to be able to put me in a strong leg entanglement. And when there's heel hooks involved, it's going to be really threatening. IBJJF, it's a little bit harder for them to be able to create an angle dominant enough for knee bars or toe holds, but it's still, once again, an unnecessary problem. As we saw at Nogi Worlds this year, or last year, Gordon Ryan was using the 411 very successfully to be able to sweep them even within an IBJJF rule set. So here, switching my hips, left hip is leading, bringing my left knee in, switching my base. And now from here, the positions that we're going to be battling from, I always have the option to be able to go out and around, but because there's a little bit more mobility within my hips and Kevin's hips and leg, he's going to have a little more articulation here. And so we're going to sometimes not be able to just freely kick our leg back. This is why Gordon likes to use here. If I bring my legs back, we can see Kevin trying to wiggle his legs right now. Very little room to move. Very easy for me to move through. Naturally, my hips go from here. In order to use my thigh underneath me, I have to lift my hips up. That creates space for Kevin. What we're going to be looking at doing is chaining the attack of the mount with going around the backside here. Kevin, in order to stop me from moving in the mount, needs to keep his knee very tight to his chest. So usually what we're going to be looking at doing from here is controlling our opponent's upper body in some way to start breaking alignment. Look for underhooks, look for cross faces. Cross face is very strong because I create this reclined twist where Kevin's hips are forced to turn this direction with his knees, and then his head gets turned the other direction. This is about the most we can ever mess up somebody's posture. If I can't do that, driving my head in to just has dispenser, open up his chin, redirect him however I want, controlling the wrist to affect structure so I'm not dealing with frames. And what I'm looking at doing is bringing my knee up and on top of the thigh so that I beat it as a frame. So here, I'm going to lift up and start turning my hips, bringing this leg up high, not shifting my center of gravity on top of Kevin, otherwise I'm going for a ride. I'm still beside him. I bring this up and I pin it. See how now his knee is in between my legs, it's no longer a frame. Now I'm able to just move straight to mount. Here, redirecting. Bringing the knee up here. I can float it. If Kevin's not really framing me up too well, I'm going to be able to kind of float still with my hands and move into mount. Right from here. Redirecting. Still dropping my ribs and my hips onto this leg as much as possible so that he can't keep opening this up or get his knee back onto this side, because that's not going to be good. This is now a proper frame creating space. Here, his knee never gets back across my center line. If I need to, near side underhook is one of my favorites. See how I can start stretching him away from his body? Now that knee elbow connection is separated and the inside space can be controlled. Here, keeping my center of gravity to my side, bringing this leg up high above his knee. And now, because this other leg is stapled, climbing straight to the mount. One more on this side, just so you can see that last detail on the leg here. So as I am in this position, open Kevin up, I start to look to beat this knee. If I have to, I might have to wiggle my hips a bit to get past it. This leg is stapled, it's a clear ride. ready to mount, and his structure is already in a really bad position. In order to beat that, Kevin needs to not let me control that inside space, so he's going to be looking at keeping that knee nice and high. So as I'm here, Kevin keeps a nice knee-elbow connection here. I cannot ever get my leg over top without severely compromising my alignment, and then he's going to just bump me off to the side. But if he keeps his knee up high, he no longer has range to reach behind him. And so the battle that becomes for us, that we will probably always win because we're extremely dominant in this position, is I'm going to be trying to bring this up, and as he brings his knee high to protect himself, it's going to allow me to be able to kick my legs past. I can either, as his knee is high, I might be able to just kick my leg back donkey style like an X pass, replacing the staple of the mat just like a leg drag. I could here form more of the back step. And I can also look at driving some of the weight into my left hip and being able to hook his leg with that shin circle. I can even take my arm and look to reach it through and start accessing this leg as a lever, pinning it up here. By putting weight into my hand, if Kevin tries to curl his leg right now, very difficult. Pinning it, I can even just choose to go to mount at that point. So we're not shifting our center of gravity around a whole bunch. We're not losing control of the upper body. It's just our right leg, the leg on the outside, that's going to be trying to go to mount and kick backwards. And I just alternate between those two until I win that battle. From here, I bring it up high, he blocks it. I look to kick my leg back, he extends. I bring my knee up over top of his knee. I go to mount. Here, bring it up high, I kick back, he extends. I bring it up high, he blocks it. And then I shin circle it, and I pin. So we need to create that threat, that in and out, the pressure and movement style, so that we get that push-pull. That's the stuff that we always hear about within jiu-jitsu, about trying to use our opponent's energy and momentum against themselves. By being able to threaten back and forth with that, we will make our opponent make a mistake in their alignment, and then we'll be able to take advantage of that. Oh, fuck. Not recording. Oh, fuck.